When you picture someone in the military, you probably imagine discipline, strength, and precision. People who know how to handle a gun, stay calm under pressure, and protect themselves at all costs. That's exactly how everyone saw Carlin Ramirez, a 24-year-old U.S. Army soldier who embodied all of those things. She was fit, trained, fearless, the kind of woman who didn't back down from a challenge. But in August of 2015, Carlin was found dead inside her home, shot multiple times. It made no sense. How could someone like her, a trained fighter, become a victim in such a brutal and personal way? As investigators dug deeper, they realized the truth behind Carlin's death was far more complex than a simple break-in or random attack. The case would expose a web of secrets, hidden relationships, and betrayal that not only shocked her family, but left even the detectives wondering if they could still trust their own instincts. Before we step into this heartbreaking story and uncover how a bright, ambitious young woman's life spiraled into tragedy, take a second to subscribe. This way, you won't miss stories like this, stories where every truth hides another layer, and the smallest detail can change everything. Carlin Ramirez was born on April 10, 1991, in Beeville, Texas. Her parents, Jesus and Susan Ramirez, raised her in a large, tight-knit family with strong values and deep Catholic faith. She had two sisters, Laura and Roxana, and two brothers, Jesus Jr. and Jesus David. They were loud, loving, and protective, a family where faith came first and everyone looked out for one another. Growing up in Del Rio, Texas, Carlin stood out for her energy and confidence. She was that kid who couldn't sit still, always outside, always curious. Her father loved rodeo, and soon enough, Carlin was riding bulls, hunting deer, raising game roosters, and learning to live life on her own terms. She was daring, adventurous, and loved the feeling of freedom that came from being outdoors. Those who knew her said Carlin was full of life, kind, independent, and strong-willed. She went to Comstock High School and graduated in 2009, where she met a young man who would later play a significant role in her story. But Carlin's dreams went beyond her hometown. Her mother and aunt had both served in the military, and Carlin admired the discipline and respect they earned. After finishing college with an associate's degree, she made a bold decision to follow in their footsteps. She enlisted in the U.S. Army at the age of 21. Her journey began in South Korea, where she quickly proved herself. She had a natural fighting spirit and was physically gifted. She trained in mixed martial arts and went on to win several local competitions. Her determination caught the attention of her superiors, and in 2014, she was stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland, serving with the 70th Military Intelligence Brigade and the 742nd Military Intelligence Battalion, roles that demanded both discipline and loyalty. Life seemed to be working out exactly as Carlin had envisioned. She was building a career, exploring the world, and earning the respect of those around her. But even the strongest soldiers have battles no one sees coming. In 2013, while she was still in South Korea, Carlin met Sergeant Malik Kearney, a 35-year-old chemical weapons specialist from San Antonio, Texas. Malik was married and had 5 children, but despite that, an intense relationship began to grow between them. Carlin's sister, Roxana, would later recall how deeply in love her sister seemed. But to their mother, Susan, Malik didn't seem like the right man for her daughter. The fact that he was already married made things worse. Still, Carlin was happy, and Susan eventually decided to step back and let her daughter make her own choices. Not long after, Carlin discovered she was pregnant. For her, it was a miracle. Years earlier, doctors had diagnosed her with cervical cancer and told her she might never be able to conceive. But now, she was expecting a baby, something she believed was a divine gift. Carlin carried that belief like a promise. She loved her unborn daughter fiercely, saying she would do anything to protect her. She named her baby girl Katala Vale Kearney, but everyone called her Vale. By July 2015, just 3 months after Vale's birth, Carlin and Malik decided to marry. The decision came fast, partly because a new military regulation allowed officers of different ranks to marry without facing disciplinary issues. But even after their wedding, life didn't get easier. Carlin remained stationed in Maryland, while Malik was still in South Carolina. The distance weighed heavily on them, especially with a newborn. They promised to make it work, even though their schedules rarely aligned. Then came the day that would shatter everything. August 25, 2015. A maintenance worker, doing his usual rounds, noticed that the back door of Carlin's townhouse was wide open. It looked suspicious. He called the police. When officers arrived, they knocked, but no one answered. The house was eerily quiet. They entered through the open door, moving cautiously from room to room. Downstairs was tidy. Nothing seemed out of place, except for an empty birth control packet in the trash and its torn wrapper on the living room floor. Then they went upstairs. Inside the main bedroom, the scene was horrific. Carlin Ramirez lay on the floor beside a broken bed frame, her body lifeless, still cradling her 5-month-old daughter. Vale was miraculously unharmed, but her mother was gone. Carlin had been shot 3 times at close range. Her clothes were pulled down to her legs, suggesting a possible assault, but the later autopsy revealed she hadn't been abused. Whoever killed her had staged the crime scene to look that way, an attempt to throw investigators off. There were bruises and scratches on her arms, neck, and face, signs of a desperate fight. A single shell casing lay near her body, later identified as coming from a .357 caliber handgun. For her family, the news was crushing. Her mother, Susan, couldn't understand how her daughter, a trained soldier, skilled in self-defense, could be overpowered like that. But she also knew Carlin would have done anything to protect her baby. If Vale was in danger, Carlin would have surrendered her life first. The night before the murder, Carlin had called her sister Roxana. Her voice was shaky. She said she was scared, that she didn't feel safe, and that if anything ever happened, she wanted her daughter to know how much she loved her. That was the last time anyone heard from her. When investigators started piecing together Carlin's final hours, suspicion immediately fell on the one person closest to her, her husband, Malik. He was in South Carolina when police reached him. They told him about Carlin's death, and he appeared devastated. He claimed he hadn't seen or spoken to her since August 1st, nearly 3 weeks before she was killed. Detectives checked his phone records, travel logs, and surveillance footage. Everything seemed to confirm his alibi. But something still didn't sit right. Carlin's commanding officer, Sergeant McDaniel, came forward with new information. He told police that Carlin had been living with a roommate, Marissa, who was away on vacation at the time. He also revealed that Carlin had been seeing another soldier, an affair that had already caused tension between her and Malik. According to McDaniel, Malik had become jealous and controlling after discovering the affair. He wanted Carlin to confess it to her superiors, and when she did, their relationship began to crumble. Carlin reportedly asked him for a divorce and even requested that he stop contacting her. Malik refused. When investigators questioned both Marissa and Carlin's alleged lover, their stories checked out. The man admitted to the relationship and said he had seen Carlin just 2 days before she was killed. His DNA matched traces found at the scene, specifically on the discarded birth control, confirming his visit, but not tying him to the murder. That left detectives with even more questions. If the lover wasn't responsible and Malik was miles away, who killed Carlin? Then, while reviewing Malik's phone records, investigators found something unsettling: an app designed to erase all data from a device with a single tap. Even worse, the deletion time was scheduled for the night of August 24th through the early hours of August 25th, the exact window when Carlin was murdered. It was too precise to be a coincidence. The deleted data from Carlin's phone turned out to be the breakthrough investigators were praying for. For weeks, her messages had been mysteriously wiped, but once the FBI's cyber team restored them, what they uncovered changed everything. The recovered conversations didn't just expose tension, they mapped out a timeline of betrayal, obsession, and rage. At first, Malik wasn't even a top suspect. His alibi seemed solid, his story smooth, and he'd played the grieving husband perfectly. But detectives noticed inconsistencies, phone pings that didn't quite match his version of events, and a few friends who quietly mentioned how controlling he'd become before the breakup. That's when investigators decided to look deeper, and the digital evidence gave them reason to. Malik Kearney wasn't the heartbroken husband he pretended to be. He was furious, not only because Carlin had cheated on him years ago, but because he believed she had embarrassed him. His ego couldn't handle the idea that his wife, a younger, beautiful soldier, might move on without him. In the weeks before her death, Carlin had been emotionally drained. She'd requested a transfer within the Army, hoping to rebuild her life away from the tension. Her family later said she seemed anxious but hopeful, determined to raise her daughter in peace, even if that meant leaving Malik behind. Even at her funeral, Malik's calmness unsettled people. He stood stiffly by her casket, emotionless, shaking hands with investigators as if nothing had happened. One detective later said, "It didn't feel like grief. It felt like performance." But what made things more twisted was that Malik was also having multiple affairs himself. He had been cheating on Carlin long before her brief relationship ever began. One of those affairs had lasted nearly 7 years, with a woman named Dolores Delgado, an Army veteran who lived in Florida. It was an on and off relationship filled with jealousy, manipulation, and emotional chaos. They would fight, split up, and always circle back to each other, even while seeing other people. Dolores told police later that she had loved him, but also feared him. She described their relationship as toxic but addictive. When investigators reached out to Dolores, she didn't try to hide it. She admitted that she and Malik had been seeing each other for years, and that she was with him just days before Carlin was murdered. She also confessed that on August 24th, the night before the killing, she had been at Malik's house in South Carolina. That immediately raised alarms. Malik had told detectives he was home alone at night. So who was lying? To find out, detectives obtained Dolores's phone records. What they found was shocking. Just a few days before Carlin's death, Malik had texted her about a gun, specifically a .357 caliber revolver, the same kind used in Carlin's murder. Dolores's Facebook page revealed even more. She had recently listed a similar gun for sale. When police confronted her with the evidence, she claimed it was all a coincidence, but her calm demeanor began to crack. She admitted that she did, in fact, own the weapon, though she insisted she'd sold it long before the shooting. Still, the pieces were starting to fit together too perfectly. The investigation intensified when police learned that shortly after the murder, Malik and Dolores suddenly moved in together, leaving their homes in South Carolina and Florida to start over in Texas. That move, right in the middle of an open homicide case, made them look guilty. Detectives didn't waste time. In October 2016, Both were arrested on suspicion of murder. It didn't take long for someone to talk. A witness came forward saying Dolores had asked him to dispose of a gun for her around the same time Carlin was killed. The witness described how the weapon had been disassembled, its serial number scratched off, and thrown off a fishing pier into Florida's Banana River. That tip led investigators to one of the most dramatic discoveries in the case. After carefully searching the riverbed, divers recovered the gun, piece by piece. Ballistics tests confirmed it. This was the exact weapon that had fired the bullets that killed Carlin Ramirez. Now, police had the murder weapon and a witness ready to testify. Feeling cornered, Dolores decided to tell her side of the story. Out of jealousy and guilt, she finally broke down and confessed. She said that Malik had asked her to help him get rid of a problem. He told her Carlin was trying to destroy his life, that she was threatening to expose his affairs, and that he needed to take care of it. Dolores swore she didn't know Malik planned to kill Carlin at night, but her actions told another story. She admitted she had given him her car, her gun, bullets, and gas money for the trip from South Carolina to Maryland. Malik even left his own car and phone at home to make it look like he never left. Dolores claimed she tried to talk him out of it, but Malik wouldn't listen. His pride and anger had taken over. Early on the morning of August 25, 2015, Malik used his spare key to enter Carlin's townhouse. Carlin, startled and terrified, fought back, but he was stronger and armed. When she resisted, he threatened her with a gun, forcing her into the bedroom. Carlin, ever the fighter, grabbed for the weapon in a desperate attempt to protect herself and her baby. But Malik pulled the trigger 3 times. The shots echoed through the quiet home. Carlin fell instantly, dying just feet from her daughter's crib. Then Malik did something unthinkable. To mislead police, he staged the scene to look like a sexual assault. He pulled down her clothes, repositioned her body, and placed baby Vale in her mother's arms before leaving through the back door. It was cold, deliberate, and cruel, the final act of a man who saw control as love. When Dolores finally confessed to police, she pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against Malik in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her testimony was the key prosecutors needed. In 2018, after an 11-day trial, the verdict was announced. Malik Kearney was found guilty of traveling across state lines to commit domestic violence, resulting in the death of his wife. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 10 additional years for the use of a firearm. Dolores Delgado received 17 years for her role in helping him plan and conceal the crime. During the trial, Malik showed no emotion, no regret, no sorrow. But for Carlin's family, the pain was unbearable. They had lost a daughter, a sister, and a mother in one night. Carlin's mother, Susan, spoke tearfully in court, saying, "He's cold and cruel, a man who planned every detail. My pain would probably give him satisfaction." Carlin's sister Roxana later said, "My sister was finally becoming the woman and mother she always wanted to be, but he stole that future from her." Carlin was just 24. Her daughter Vale, who was found in her mother's arms, will grow up never remembering her, but knowing how fiercely she was loved. Malik Kearney now serves his life sentence in a South Carolina federal prison with no possibility of parole. Dolores remains behind bars, scheduled for release in 2033. Vale was taken in by her grandparents, surrounded by the love and safety her mother fought for until the very end. Every year, Carlin's family honors her memory, reminding others that domestic violence often hides behind smiles and uniforms. The story of Carlin Ramirez is a brutal reminder that danger doesn't always come from outside the home. Sometimes, it's the person who says, "I love you," that you should fear the most. That's it for today's case. What do you think? Was justice truly served, or did Malik get off too easily? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another case where love turns lethal. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.